Embarrassing, nonsensical, and utterly disappointing in every conceivable way. Welcome to the Pocket. I'm your host, Scooter, and today I'm giving you my Week 5 reaction to the Giants' completely embarrassing loss to the New Orleans Saints by a score of 26-14. 5 turnovers in this game for the New York Giants, 3 of them caused by the skill players. And that was really the foundation of why the Giants lost this game. There was a ton of other things that went wrong, and we will get into that. But just how disappointing is this? With all the hype the Giants had with Jackson Dart in his first career start, beating a 3-0 Chargers team without Malik Nabers for the majority of the game, and having the pass rush and the defense take over that game and make the most of an injured Chargers offensive line. All of the hype heading into this game, where instead of versing an undefeated team, we are versing a team that has only lost. A team with a quarterback in Spencer Rattler who is not expected to be the starter next year, expected to be a bridge guy. And a rookie head coach in Kellen Moore, and a defense coached by Brandon Staley. And this is what the Giants lost to today in embarrassing fashion. So let's talk a little bit about what were the things that went wrong in this game for the Giants. How did this even happen? Well, like I mentioned, 5 turnovers, and 3 of which were skill players. Scatterboo fumble, returned for a touchdown. Slayton fumble earlier in the game was extremely deflating. And then late in the game, Dart on a 4th down, I believe it was, throwing the ball to Bo Collins, who looks like he's on a 5-yard inbreaker and just gives up on the whole play, who's stepping up into a great opportunity for himself to earn a starting role in the NFL with Malik Nabers out for the season. And he just gives up on the route, and Kool-Aid McKinstry is just right there because he kept running the route for him. So those were the turnovers, along with a Jackson Dart fumble, which was just against air. That was not very good at all. And then an interception earlier. That was most certainly more his fault. I do still have to go back and watch the All-22 to see exactly what went on in this game. This was kind of a crazy day for me, but I had seen enough. For Darius Slayton, this was one of his worst games that I can remember. He had a dropped deep ball that really took some energy out of the offense. Jackson Dart underthrew a flea flicker, and it was underthrown, but Slayton really didn't do much of anything to come back to the ball. And as I mentioned, Slayton had a fumble that was a massive deflator for this team, and it seemed like after that everything really started going wrong. And now he's got a hamstring injury, so whatever we could have gotten out of him, we're probably not going to get out of him now. Seems like any bad habit he's ever had showed back up in this game. In this game, 9 catches for 68 yards by all of the wide receivers combined. All of the meat left on the bone with Slayton dropping that deep ball, some missed throws, and likely missed reads by Jackson Dart. Like I said, Slayton failed to adjust to that flea flicker, and there was just a whole bunch of reasons why this was to be. We did run 2 tight ends quite a bit in this game. We used Daniel Bellinger quite effectively, along with Theo Johnson, who did have 2 touchdowns. Now, of course, he could have, played a little better when it came to, outside the red zone. But I think overall for the young tight end, Theo Johnson, you got to say it was a good game with the 2 touchdowns, the only 2 touchdowns the offense had, and Bellinger being the leading receiver. I talked about how Jackson Dart had his 2 turnovers that were definitely on him, fumbling on air, the bad interception. And what's crazy is this game was still winnable even late, but you could just tell that any confidence that this team had was just completely gone. And so that's all the players. We're going to talk some more about them, but I want to bring up this right now, and that the coaching staff too. A great start to this game, going up 14-3, and then just completely unraveling after some of these errors and mistakes by the players. Just completely unraveling the offensive game plan, unraveling the defense, Now I get there was a fumble return for a touchdown by the Saints defense, so it's more like they scored like 19 points, but it still wasn't good by the defense. How do we only get one QB hit and no sacks in this game? They didn't have Cesar Ruiz. I get that they were doing quick game. Mostly they get the ball out quick, and on that deep shot to Shaheed, which we'll talk about more, they had 8-man in protection. So, yeah, let's talk about that right now. You could see both Tyler Nubin and Javon Holland chasing Shaheed. As he breaks away towards the corner, it was kind of like a bunch formation. He goes inside and breaks it back out. And you could just see them both lagging behind. He's a deep threat. How are we not ready for that? And it was a great throw by Spencer Rattler. It really was. But they had 8 men in protection, and Dexter still managed to get some pressure up the middle, but the secondary allowed them to get behind them. And of course, you only have like 2 wide receivers going downfield. It means you got like 4 or 5 defenders covering absolutely nothing. And it was just a bad play overall by the secondary. And you can't really blame the pass rush because they had 8 men in protection, but it's just bad execution by the team overall. So like I said, I got to watch the All-22 when this all comes out. But the whole team played bad after the first quarter and a half or so, and I think this much at this point is true. Things have never looked worse for the Giants, and things have never looked worse for Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen, which is surprising because we've had some pretty dark times. But why am I saying this? Because this was supposed to be the reset year, the first year of the quarterback Daboll wanted, with the pieces that this regime had put in place, especially the past 2 years of draft classes. This year's draft class and last year seemed very promising. And I'm a big defender of Brian Daboll. Not as much of Joe Schoen, but I was convinced we were heading in the right direction, especially after last week and the way things were looking. But I want to go back to my season preview for the Giants, where I talked about how fragile the ceiling for this team is. I said if we lose one of these core offensive pieces like Malik Nabers or Andrew Thomas, our ceiling is gone. And we are back to the Giants from beforehand because it's just too much missing from what a competent offense would normally have. An average offensive line. The offensive line is terrible when Andrew Thomas doesn't play. The receiving core is pretty good, or pretty decent at least, when Malik Nabers is in there because he's so good. But when he's out, you see what it looks like today. And we were convinced that, hey, maybe it might be okay because we beat the Chargers without them, but it was mostly through the ground. So those two may have not played a whole game of snaps together this entire season, and it really shows. The Giants have 1 win to this point, 5 weeks into the season. And at this point, I just don't know where to set the expectations for this team. Anytime there's a step forward, there's 2 steps back. And we are currently staring 1-7 dead in the eyes as the next 3 games is Eagles, Broncos, and Eagles. There's a few games after that where the spread won't be like any higher than -7 in favor of the other team, so we might have a decent chance to pull off the upset. But I don't want to say this team has to win 7 games or anything at this point because I don't know if this team even has the players healthy or the coaching expertise to get that done. It's just not realistic at this point. So just how disappointing that all the juice this team had after last week had disappeared so easily. Where is the resilience? That to me is coaching, and that to me is leadership. Yes, Jackson Dart looks like he has the ability to be a quality leader, but we also have Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, and a coaching staff, right, that should, Russ and Jameis should be able to, kind of be around the sideline, keeping the energy up while Jackson Dart's out there. And their coaching staff needs to have these guys with the proper mindset. What are they saying to these players after they come over to the sideline after a Slayton drop, a Slayton fumble, or a Jackson Dart interception, or giving up that Shaheed touchdown? What are they saying to these guys? Because it's not working. They got to say something else. because I know our ceiling isn't really there, but it's just crazy how it just seems like we just play at our floor and we can't get out of it. We can't get out of our own way once these mistakes start packing up. So things are looking very bad for Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll. I don't even think Schoen is safe at this point. There's been talk of just Daboll being fired and Schoen being kept. I don't really see Mara firing anyone before Black Monday, but we'll just have to see. I'm sure, just like this team always does when it looks like it's over, by the end of the season, they will earn a few upsets before it's over. But my God, is it just painful at this point. To get excited for this team is like very, very painful, and it makes you feel like you're going crazy. Because at some point, something like this always happens, where just all of the air gets taken out. All the energy is ripped away, and it's like you're not allowed to have any confidence in this team, and you shouldn't at this point. Even as a fan of the team, how could you have like confidence after losing that badly to the Saints? Now, it was just 1 week, right? Maybe it was a bad week of practice, a bad game plan. Who knows? But I think it's pretty clearly everything, the players, the coaches, the whole attitude and mindset. We thought we were getting away from that with Jackson Dart. It's still here. It is still here. Is it even worth it to trade for a guy like DJ Moore if you might not be the GM next year? You know, is John Mara going to allow something, some more desperate decisions to be made? This was my fear when we were talking about this in draft season. About, this regime getting a quarterback with us keeping him. I said actually at the end of last season, I am a Daboll defender, but I said I think it might be just a good spot to change the regime right before you get your new quarterback. Because if you are hanging on by a thread as a head coach and a GM, and the owner allows them to stay and pick a quarterback, but then says you have to make the playoffs or else you're done, okay, then whoever your next coach is did not take the quarterback that you signed up for the next however many years. Now, he's not like a top 10 pick, and I'm not by any means giving up on Jackson Dart or anything, but you just understand how this is going to potentially compromise his development and his confidence and everything that goes into that. And it's just a complete mess because it looks like that's where we're heading. When we kept Daboll and Schoen, and after the draft, I was like, I think we are heading in the right direction. And I kept trying to kind of see that even if the Giants weren't playing well, that it looks like we're getting better, we're improving, we're playing well. A lot better than we used to, but it always goes back to this somehow. And I don't know how. It's ridiculous. It really is. So, a completely embarrassing loss to the Saints. And there's, in all reality, it doesn't really feel like there's too much to say because I think we've seen this version of the Giants before. I think we know where we're heading, and I think everyone is unhappy about it. I don't know what the right thing is to do for John Mara as the owner when it comes to Daboll and Schoen and what to do. I would say just stick it out for the whole year. Make a decision at the end. See what happens. Unless something, there's this incredible winning streak or something, and it looks like Dart is developing under Daboll's coaching, then maybe, right? But as a Daboll defender, I'm just ready for something else, but the grass is not always greener on the other side. We've been through this before. The Giants are in a terrible spot as a franchise. It's such a bad spot because it seems like nothing that they will choose to do is going to guarantee any level of improvement, right? Giants fans, hang in there, man. Hang in there. Because if this is what the rest of this season is going to look like, then you're going to have the resilience that we wish they had out there on the field to remain a fan of this team and to keep watching on Sundays, to even maybe go to the stadium. It's tough. It really is tough. And as a content creator, a different perspective that I obviously never used to have before last season. It's very difficult to come up here and I'm an optimistic guy. It's really tough to be optimistic at this point about anything. What did they show us? Maybe Theo Johnson looks pretty good. I mean, Scadaboo had a fumble, but he still was, fairly productive in this game and valuable to the offense. And Dart, he made mistakes and whatnot, but he still is only 22 years old and really got thrown to the Wolves. So, other than that, and the fact that the defensive talent, obviously we all know is there, there's not really much of anything to be optimistic about after that. I mean, what could you even say there is to be optimistic about? And it's just tough, This was part of why I made sure to make NFL content, not just Giants content, NFL content, a core foundation of this channel, because I love the whole NFL, but also because as the Giants season comes to an end, or even now by week 6, it's gonna look like it's over and no one's gonna be interested, and it's just frustrating, if the whole channel was committed to that. So I'm glad that we can all at least still enjoy the NFL for what it is. Some Giants fans may not feel that way. They may just be interested in the Giants. If you feel that way, I am sorry. I am sorry that you feel that way. And I encourage you to just enjoy the NFL for what it is, because it's looking so bad for the Giants. It really is. Maybe we can pull off, some upsets against some good teams and have some fun moments, but we're probably going to be picking in the top 10 almost certainly. And it looks like there's a good chance right now that it could be top 5 or even top 3. So we're going to be in the same spot we were last year. That's how things are looking right now. One of the most deflating losses I can remember as a Giants fan. I can't remember losing to, because this is like losing to, I know the Browns are better than this right now, but it's like losing to the Cleveland Browns. The Saints team is supposed to be the worst team in the league, and they've been scrappy. And it turns out Vegas was right. For favoring the Saints. Should have known something was up. They knew something. I don't know what it was, but they knew something. Alrighty, guys. I don't have much more else to say. I'm planning on doing a show at some point, either this Monday or next Monday. Hopefully with a co-host for the first time. Well, maybe not the first time, but the first time for a whole planned show that I plan to continue doing repeatedly, breaking down a coverage of this week's NFL. So keep an eye out for that. Please like the video and comment to help share it around, and to other Giants fans who are going to feel the same way. And I know you probably are too. You're probably very frustrated. And subscribe if you want someone else to follow when it comes to, these Giants content creators. I know there's tons of great ones. A lot of them have already got their reactions up right now. But this is going to be mine. And if you want to follow along with me, then this is the place to get it, obviously. So thank you all for checking out the video. I hope you enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to the content I have coming out for the next week and a half or so. So I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.